My name is Ruth Goldberg. I'm 73 years old from Brooklyn, New York. And I'm about to tell you how my sister-in-law, Sarah, thought she could forge my signature on a $75,000 personal loan to fund her gambling addiction, not knowing she'd picked the wrong Jewish grandmother to mess with. You see, I'd spent 32 years as a forensic accountant for the New York State Attorney General's office, specializing in financial fraud and identity theft, which taught me exactly how signature forgery works and how to coordinate with federal authorities to destroy the criminals who steal from elderly relatives. It started 13 months ago when Sarah began asking increasingly detailed questions about my financial security and whether I'd ever considered helping family members during difficult times. At 73, I was living comfortably in my Brighton Beach apartment on my state pension and retirement savings, managing my finances perfectly while staying active in our synagogue community at Temple Beth Shalom. Sarah would visit twice weekly, always bringing her 2 young children, Emma, 8, and Jacob, 6, and commenting on how responsible I was with money and how lucky our family was to have someone with my expertise. She'd bring financial documents for me to review, claiming she needed my professional opinion on investment opportunities and debt consolidation options. "Aunt Ruth, you know so much about financial planning," Sarah would say with apparent admiration. "These credit counselors keep sending me paperwork, but I trust your judgment more than anyone's." Sarah was 34 years old, college educated, but had been struggling with mounting debt from what she claimed were business investments and emergency expenses. She seemed genuinely concerned about providing for Emma and Jacob, and I'd always felt protective of my brother David's children from his marriage to this woman. But what I didn't realize was that Sarah was drowning in gambling debt from her secret addiction to online poker and casino visits, and she'd been researching my financial background to execute the perfect identity theft scheme. The discovery came 3 months after what I thought was a routine visit when Sarah had asked me to review some insurance paperwork that needed my signature for policy updates. I'd signed what appeared to be legitimate forms without reading every detail, trusting my sister-in-law's explanation. The shocking truth emerged when I received a congratulatory letter from Empire State Credit Union welcoming me as a new borrower and providing details about my $75,000 personal loan with monthly payments of $1,247 starting immediately. My hands started shaking as I realized Sarah had tricked me into signing blank loan documents and then forged additional paperwork to secure a massive personal loan using my excellent credit rating and financial history as collateral. That evening, I called Empire State Credit Union to report the fraudulent loan. "Mrs. Goldberg, according to our records, you applied for this loan in person, provided extensive financial documentation, and the signature matches our verification samples perfectly," the loan officer explained. "The funds were distributed to your checking account 3 months ago." I never applied for any loan, and I certainly never received $75,000 in my accounts. Someone has stolen my identity and forged my signature on loan documents. The investigation revealed that Sarah had opened a checking account in my name using forged identification documents, received the $75,000 loan proceeds, and had been making minimum payments to avoid detection while she gambled away the stolen money. That night, I sat in my Brooklyn apartment looking at family photos and made a decision that would send Sarah to federal prison and result in me gaining legal custody of Emma and Jacob. She thought she was dealing with a trusting elderly aunt who couldn't understand complex financial crimes. Instead, she'd committed federal identity theft against someone who'd spent 32 years learning exactly how to coordinate with law enforcement to destroy financial criminals. But Sarah's betrayal went beyond theft. She was using my brother's children as emotional leverage while stealing my identity to fund her gambling addiction, putting their future at risk along with my financial security. The investigation was about to begin, and only one of us was walking away with custody of those children. Before I tell you how I sent Sarah to federal prison and gained custody of Emma and Jacob, you need to understand what she was trying to steal from me and the lifetime of honest work those financial assets represented. Every dollar Sarah gambled away was earned through 32 years of protecting New York residents from exactly the crimes she was now committing against me. I started at the New York State Attorney General's office in 1978 as a junior forensic accountant, fresh from Brooklyn College with an accounting degree and determination to fight financial crimes against vulnerable citizens. While other young Jewish women were focusing on traditional family roles, I was working 50-hour weeks investigating identity theft and building expertise in signature forgery cases. By 1985, I'd earned a promotion to senior forensic investigator, specializing in elder financial abuse, that paid $52,000 annually. Excellent money for New York in those days. My expertise became legendary throughout state law enforcement for catching criminals who thought they could outsmart forensic accounting procedures. During my 32-year career, I'd investigated over 600 identity theft cases involving family members who stole from elderly relatives through forged signatures, fake loan applications, and manipulated financial documents. I knew every technique criminals used, every federal law governing identity theft, and every procedure for building cases that sent financial criminals to federal prison. When I retired in 2015 after 3 decades of state service, I'd accumulated $385,000 in retirement savings through the New York State retirement system, owned my Brighton Beach apartment worth $425,000, and had a monthly pension of $4,100. My total assets were worth $810,000, money earned protecting other people's elderly relatives from financial exploitation. But my investment in Sarah's family wasn't just professional, it was deeply personal. When my brother David married Sarah in 2012, I became a devoted aunt to Emma and Jacob, providing stability and financial support that supplemented their middle-class lifestyle. Over 8 years, I'd given Sarah's family $45,000 in direct assistance, children's school expenses, medical bills, vacation funds, emergency loans, and educational savings for Emma and Jacob's future college costs, money that came from my state salary and retirement savings. During family dinners at our monthly Shabbat gatherings, I'd often share stories about identity theft cases I'd investigated, complex schemes involving forged signatures, elderly victims who'd trusted family members, and the federal prison sentences that awaited people who stole from seniors. Sarah. The worst cases I handled were family members who forged elderly relatives' signatures on loan documents, I'd tell her during our Friday night dinners. Federal penalties for identity theft are severe, and the FBI doesn't show mercy to criminals who exploit family trust. Sarah would listen attentively and express horror at people who would steal from vulnerable family members, never revealing that she was taking detailed mental notes about exactly how signature forgery worked and what documentation would be needed to steal my identity for loan applications. The $75,000 she'd stolen wasn't just money. It was the product of 32 years of state service protecting other families from financial predators. Every dollar represented overtime hours examining fraudulent documents, weekends working complex cases, and the expertise I'd developed catching people who preyed on elderly victims. But Sarah's betrayal was more devastating because it involved Emma and Jacob. She wasn't just stealing my identity, she was using my love for those children as emotional cover while committing federal crimes that would destroy their family stability and future security. Aunt Ruth, the kids love spending time with you, and you're such a good influence on them, Sarah would say, while secretly planning to forge my signature and steal my financial identity. They're so lucky to have someone with your wisdom and experience in their lives. Most importantly, Sarah was underestimating the investigative capacity and federal connections of her intended victim. She saw an elderly aunt living alone and assumed I was too trusting or isolated to recognize sophisticated identity theft and financial manipulation. What Sarah didn't know was that Ruth Goldberg had spent 32 years building relationships with FBI financial crimes investigators, federal prosecutors, and forensic experts who specialized in identity theft cases involving elderly victims. The knowledge she was betting against was about to become the expertise that saved my financial security and sent her to federal prison while I gained legal custody of Emma and Jacob to protect them from their criminal mother's influence. What I uncovered next revealed that Sarah's theft of my identity wasn't a desperate response to recent financial troubles. It was a sophisticated criminal enterprise she'd been planning for over 2 years, using my trust in family and my professional expertise to execute the perfect elderly financial exploitation scheme. The morning after discovering the fraudulent loan, I contacted Special Agent Michael Cohen at the FBI's Financial Crimes Division in Manhattan, a federal investigator I'd worked with on dozens of identity theft cases during my forensic accounting career. Michael, this is Ruth Goldberg, retired New York State forensic accountant. I need to report identity theft and signature forgery, and the evidence suggests federal crimes involving systematic elderly financial abuse. Ruth, the legendary fraud detective, what kind of scheme are you dealing with? My sister-in-law forged my signature on a $75,000 personal loan and has been using my identity for financial transactions while gambling away the stolen proceeds. The evidence suggests organized criminal activity with possible additional victims. Within 24 hours, Special Agent Cohen had opened a comprehensive FBI investigation and assigned forensic document analysts to examine the loan paperwork and signature samples for evidence of systematic forgery. Mrs. Goldberg, your sister-in-law used professional-level techniques to forge your signature and create fraudulent identification documents, the FBI forensic analysis revealed. She had access to multiple samples of your handwriting and practiced extensively to perfect the forgery. But the investigation revealed something far more sinister than simple loan fraud. Sarah hadn't just stolen from me, she was operating a comprehensive identity theft scheme, targeting multiple elderly relatives and family friends throughout Brooklyn's Jewish community. Your sister-in-law has been researching the financial backgrounds of at least 6 other senior citizens, gathering their personal information and developing strategies to exploit their trust for additional loan fraud. Agent Cohen reported during our coordination meeting. The federal investigation expanded to include surveillance of Sarah's activities, analysis of her gambling records, and a comprehensive examination of her financial transactions showing exactly how she'd spent my stolen $75,000. She lost $68,000 of your money at Atlantic City casinos and online poker sites, the FBI financial analysis revealed. The remaining $7,000 was used for personal expenses and minimum loan payments to avoid detection. But the most damaging evidence came from Sarah's own computer records, which contained detailed research about elderly identity theft, signature forgery tutorials, and strategies for exploiting family trust to access senior citizens' financial accounts. Your sister-in-law downloaded guides for forging signatures, researched which credit unions had the weakest verification procedures, and even studied federal penalties to calculate acceptable risks, the digital forensics team reported. The scope of Sarah's betrayal was comprehensive. She'd stolen my identity, gambled away $68,000 of the proceeds, and was planning similar crimes against other elderly family members while using Emma and Jacob as emotional, shields to deflect suspicion, but I wanted more than criminal prosecution. I wanted to protect Emma and Jacob from their criminal mother's influence and ensure they had stable, law-abiding guardianship while Sarah faced federal consequences. That evening, I contacted attorney Rebecca Rosenberg at Goldstein & Associates, Brooklyn's most respected family law firm specializing in custody cases involving criminal parents. Rebecca, I need emergency custody proceedings for my brother's children whose mother has committed federal identity theft crimes using my financial information, I explained during our consultation. The evidence shows systematic criminal behavior that endangers the children's welfare and future security. Mrs. Goldberg, if your sister-in-law has committed federal financial crimes, we can petition for emergency custody based on parental unfitness and criminal endangerment of minor children, Attorney Rosenberg assured me. Within 48 hours, we'd filed comprehensive custody petitions in Brooklyn Family Court, requesting immediate removal of Emma and Jacob from Sarah's care based on her criminal activity and gambling addiction that created an unstable, dangerous home environment. Your Honor, Mrs. Sarah Goldberg has committed federal identity theft against her elderly sister-in-law, gambled away $68,000 in stolen funds, and exposed her minor children to criminal activity and financial instability, Attorney Rosenberg argued during our emergency hearing. The family court judge granted temporary custody to me pending Sarah's criminal trial, recognizing that children shouldn't remain with parents who commit federal financial crimes against family members. Sarah thought she was dealing with a trusting elderly aunt who wouldn't understand complex financial manipulation. Instead, she was facing someone who'd spent 32 years learning exactly how to coordinate with federal authorities and family courts to protect vulnerable victims while ensuring criminals faced maximum consequences for their betrayal. 6 months later, I experienced the profound satisfaction of watching Sarah's complete legal destruction unfold in federal court as FBI evidence. Forensic testimony and financial analysis combined to send her to federal prison, while I gained permanent custody of Emma and Jacob through the family court system. The federal trial was everything I'd hoped it would be. The U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of New York charged Sarah with multiple felonies: identity theft, wire fraud, mail fraud, elder abuse, conspiracy to commit financial crimes, and organized criminal enterprise related to her systematic targeting of elderly victims. Your Honor, the defendant exploited her relationship with her elderly sister-in-law to commit sophisticated identity theft, forging signatures to steal $75,000 that she gambled away while planning similar crimes against other senior citizens, federal prosecutor Jennifer Martinez stated during opening arguments. Sarah's court-appointed attorney had no defense against the overwhelming evidence. FBI forensic analysis, gambling records, computer files showing criminal research, and expert testimony about signature forgery created such a compelling case that plea negotiations began immediately. Mrs. Goldberg, your sister-in-law wants to negotiate a plea agreement to avoid maximum sentencing, Prosecutor Martinez reported. She's offering complete restitution and cooperation in exchange for reduced charges. Ms. Martinez, Sarah can negotiate whatever plea she wants, I replied with the federal expertise that had guided my 32-year career. But I want her to serve enough prison time to understand the consequences of stealing from elderly family members and endangering her children's welfare. Sarah pleaded guilty to all federal charges. 12 years in federal prison, complete restitution of $75,000 plus interest and investigative costs, and lifetime prohibition from any financial services involving elderly clients or family members. But the criminal conviction was only half of my victory. The family court custody proceedings were equally satisfying. As Brooklyn Family Court recognized that children deserved protection from parents who commit federal financial crimes, Mrs. Ruth Goldberg has demonstrated exceptional stability, financial security, and moral character, while Mrs. Sarah Goldberg has shown criminal behavior, gambling addiction, and willingness to exploit elderly family members, Judge Patricia Williams announced during the final custody hearing. The court awarded me permanent legal custody of Emma and Jacob, recognizing that a retired forensic accountant with a clean criminal record and stable finances provided better guardianship than their criminal mother, who'd be in federal prison for the next 12 years. "Aunt Ruth, are we going to live with you now?" 8-year-old Emma asked after the custody decision. "Yes, sweetheart. You and Jacob are going to live with me, and I'm going to make sure you have everything you need to grow up safely and successfully," I assured her. The transition was remarkably smooth. Emma and Jacob had always felt comfortable in my Brighton Beach apartment, and I'd already established educational savings accounts and enrolled them in excellent local schools near Temple Beth Shalom, where they could maintain their Jewish cultural education. But the most satisfying consequence was Sarah's complete financial destruction. The federal restitution order, combined with civil penalties and attorney fees, resulted in a $125,000 judgment that would follow her for life, ensuring she'd never recover financially from her criminal betrayal. The Brooklyn Daily Eagle ran a comprehensive investigation titled "Gambling Addiction Leads to Identity Theft, Federal Prison and Loss of Custody," detailing Sarah's criminal scheme, and the forensic expertise that exposed her crimes. Ruth Goldberg's case demonstrates how elderly victims can fight back against family identity theft using professional knowledge and federal law enforcement coordination, the article reported, making her a model for elder protection throughout New York's Jewish community. 6 months after Sarah's sentencing, I received a desperate letter from her in federal prison. "Aunt Ruth, I know what I did was unforgivable, but Emma and Jacob are my children. I made terrible mistakes with gambling and stealing from you, but losing my kids forever seems like too much punishment. Please consider allowing supervised visits so I can maintain some relationship with them." I responded with the same forensic precision that had built the case against her. "Sarah, you forged my signature to steal $75,000 that you gambled away while planning similar crimes against other elderly family members. You used Emma and Jacob as emotional shields while committing federal financial crimes that endangered their security and future. Your 12-year prison sentence represents justice for elderly financial exploitation, and my custody of the children ensures they'll have stable, law-abiding guardianship while you face the consequences of your criminal choices." Sarah thought she could exploit family trust to steal my identity and gamble away my life's work. Instead, she learned that some elderly aunts spent their careers learning exactly how to coordinate with federal authorities and family courts to ensure criminals lost everything, including their children. Today, 4 years after Sarah's failed identity theft scheme, I'm raising Emma and Jacob in my Brighton Beach home with complete legal custody, community support, and the profound satisfaction that comes from using professional expertise to protect vulnerable children while ensuring their criminal mother faced permanent consequences for betraying family trust. Sarah is currently serving year 4 of her 12-year sentence at Federal Correctional Institution Danbury, with no possibility of early release due to the severity of her financial crimes against elderly victims. Upon her release in 2028, she'll face financial devastation, unemployment due to felony convictions, and extremely limited visitation rights with Emma and Jacob. The children have thrived under my guardianship. Emma is now 12 and excelling in accelerated classes at her Brooklyn Middle School, while 10-year-old Jacob shows remarkable talent in mathematics and science. Both children participate actively in Temple Beth Shalom's youth programs and have developed strong friendships within our supportive Jewish community. "Bubby Ruth, are we going to stay with you forever?" Jacob asked recently, using the Yiddish term for grandmother that he'd started using spontaneously. "As long as you need me, and as long as I can provide the love and stability you deserve," I assured him. The $125,000 restitution and civil judgment I won from Sarah was more than financial compensation. It represented a complete reversal of her scheme to steal my life's work while endangering her children's future. I used $35,000 of those funds to establish college savings accounts for Emma and Jacob, ensuring their educational security regardless of their mother's criminal choices. I also donated $25,000 to the New York State Attorney General's Elder Protection Program, providing resources for forensic accounting investigations of family identity theft cases throughout the state. Every month, I speak at senior centers, synagogues, and community organizations about recognizing identity theft warning signs and protecting yourself when family members request access to financial information or ask you to sign routine paperwork. The Anti-Defamation League established the annual Ruth Goldberg Elder Advocacy Award, recognizing individuals who protect senior citizens from family financial exploitation and identity theft schemes. My Brighton Beach apartment has become a warm, stable home for Emma and Jacob. Every evening, we gather for homework help, traditional Jewish cooking lessons, and stories about their grandfather David, my brother, who would have been proud of how they've overcome their mother's betrayal. The children have adapted remarkably well to their new life. They rarely ask about Sarah, and when they do, I explain honestly that their mother made serious mistakes that required legal consequences, but that they are loved, safe, and will always have the support they need. 2 years ago, I received Sarah's most desperate plea from federal prison. "Aunt Ruth, Emma and Jacob are growing up without their mother because of my mistakes. I understand I deserved prison for stealing from you, but the children are innocent. They need their mother, and I've learned from my errors. Please consider allowing phone calls or visits so I can be part of their lives while I serve my sentence." I responded with the wisdom earned through 32 years of protecting vulnerable victims. "Sarah, you forged my signature to steal $75,000 that you gambled away while using Emma and Jacob as emotional cover for systematic identity theft crimes. Your children are thriving under stable, law-abiding guardianship that provides the security and moral guidance you failed to give them. Emma is excelling academically and has developed confidence and self-respect that comes from living in a home where criminal behavior isn't tolerated or rationalized. Jacob is becoming a thoughtful, responsible young man who understands the difference between right and wrong. Your federal prison sentence protects not just elderly financial crime victims, but also your own children from the influence of a mother who chose gambling, addiction, and criminal behavior over their welfare and security. The children you endangered through your crimes are now safe, loved, and preparing for successful futures that your criminal choices nearly destroyed. Today, I'm 77 years old, raising 2 wonderful children with complete community support, excellent health, and the daily joy that comes from watching Emma and Jacob develop into thoughtful, ethical young people who will never repeat their mother's mistakes. People sometimes ask if I feel guilty about sending my sister-in-law to federal prison and taking permanent custody of her children. But I sleep peacefully every night knowing I protected 2 innocent children from a criminal mother while teaching the most important lesson possible. When people choose crime over family, they lose everything worth having, including their children. Sarah thought she could exploit my trust to steal my identity and gamble away my life savings while using her children as shields. Instead, She learned that some elderly aunts spent their careers learning exactly how to use federal law and family courts to ensure criminals faced complete consequences while innocent children found the stable, loving homes they deserved. The last thing I want to say is this: protect your personal information. Never sign documents without independent review. And remember that law enforcement provides powerful protection for seniors who fight back against family financial crimes. When family members become criminals, protecting their children isn't betrayal. It's the most loving thing you can do. Because when people use family trust to commit federal identity theft while endangering innocent children, the only response is to ensure those criminals lose everything, including custody, while the children they endangered find the stability and love they always deserved. Thank you for listening to today's story from Granny Story Corner. Life teaches us lessons in the most unexpected ways, doesn't it? If this story touched your heart, please subscribe for more real-life tales that remind us of our shared humanity. Until next time, may your own story be filled with wisdom and love.